Hey guys, what's up? It's TenneyBox here. Welcome back to another video. This video I'm going to be talking about the gaming industry and where I think that the future of game development is going to be going. This is completely theoretical. There's 100% no guarantee that this is going to be anything possible, or I mean, it could be possible. That's what's theoretical. Like, it could be a thing. It may not be a thing. I could be completely off base. I could be like somewhat right. I could be completely on base for what's going to happen. It could be a big futuristic depiction of the future. But um, yeah, like I said, today I'm talking about futuristic game development. What I think is going to be taking on like the mainstream type of games in terms of developers, and I want to make it clear that I don't dislike AAA gaming things. Clearly, I'm playing one right now. I'm playing Sonic All-Star Racing Transform. I think I got that right because I'm always confused with the frickin' name of this game. That I always confuse it. I haven't played this game in probably about 6 months or so. But I remember I think I did a video of it on either my channel, my main channel or secondary channel. I can't remember right now. Um, but I remember butchering the name of this game, and I probably just butchered it in this video too. So I apologize, game developers of this. If you ever watch this video, I apologize that I butchered the name of your game, and if not, then props to me. But I think that indie developers are going to be the future of gaming, and you're probably thinking, well, $10, why are you saying that? What does that have to do with anything? And to a certain degree, yeah, you'd probably be right, because if you're looking at like modern statistics right now, you'd probably say, yeah, indie games are like the low point of the gaming community right now. There's not a lot of new ones coming out, and a lot of the AAA games are continuing to make money. And why is that? Honestly, I think, in my personal opinion, remember this is all opinionated and completely theoretical. In my opinion, I think that the reason why AAA games are 100% dominating everything else is one, they're AAA games. They're AAA game developers and publishing companies like EA, Ubisoft, those kind of guys. A lot of people are going to be more inclined to buy from them, although some companies do not have as good of a track record because of microtransactions and DLC rip-offs or whatever. I'm not calling any specific companies in this video because I really haven't come across too many bad examples of it. But also this ties into my theory quite a bit because it does involve microtransactions and DLC. The reason I think that indie developers are going to start taking over in the gaming industry is simply because it's going to be a cheaper method of buying games, first of all, and second of all, in my opinion, indie developers have more freedom to have more creative vision and artistic value. And that's not to say that AAA games don't have that, but let's be honest, when we pick up the new Assassin's Creed game, or the new Call of Duty game, or the new Sonic game, or whatever it is, these IPs that we pick up, for the most part, they have very similar behaviors. Like, for example, Outlast 2, watched a Let's Play of that. Quite disturbing, very much more disturbing than the first one, if I do say so myself, but it definitely had that same Outlast sort of theme to it. Because it works. It works. If for anybody that's played the first Outlast game, they can go to the second one and be like, oh yeah, this is going to be a scary game with lots of running, lots of hiding, lots of disturbing shock moment stuff, and yeah, that's what they delivered on completely. And for Sonic games, for example, you could have stuff like, oh yeah, you're going to have 2D platformers for the most part, some 3D stuff, uh, and some badly animated, I think it was the bad game Sonic Boom. Still haven't checked that out to this day. I watched a video of the completionists reviewing that, and that looked, well, let's just say that didn't look very good, to say the least. If you want to go check out that video, I probably won't remember to link in the description below because, I don't know, I always forget after a certain amount of time, but if I do remember it, I'll just take my verbal note right here. Me in the future, or just viewer watching if I didn't actually add it, is in the description. Go check out Gerard's video. It's the completionist, the completionist Sonic Boom. I'm sure it'll show up. First result, I'm guessing. I mean, I don't think too many people have made a video of completing Sonic Boom before, so there's that. And back onto the subject of indie games taking over the gaming community, what I was saying with the creative vision is that a lot of indie or AAA game companies and publishers have to sort of set a pattern for the games that they release, because people are going to keep spending money on it if they're getting the same-ish product. And that's always been an argument between people. It's like, do people want to pay more for pay big amounts of money for games that are new or games that are familiar? And I honestly think that right now with current gaming stuff, I do think that it's familiar that's very much winning over, just because of popular demand of just like similar things like Call of Duty. Why do you think that's been doing so well? Minus Infinite Warfare, I've been playing a heck of a lot of Black Ops 3 Zombie Chronicles. The multiplayer has become a bit too much. I've been playing it, but it's been a painful battle, especially because they added like 30 melee weapons since the start of that game, which is to me kind of cringeworthy. But I'm not gonna make this a hate video about Black Ops 3. I'm not calling out any companies in specific here, or in particular here, because that's not what I want to do with this video. This is supposed to be me just giving like a solid theory about what I think is going to be the future of gaming in terms of people releasing games, like developers and publishers. I don't think by any means of the imagination, like I said earlier, that I don't think AAA games and AAA companies will cease to exist anytime soon. It's quite the opposite of that, really, because they're running so much and so far and so hard on microtransactions and DLC. And earlier today, I started playing Tony Hawk's Underground 2 on the GameCube. Well, it was an emulator, because my GameCube is up above me right now, actually, and I don't know where my cables are. And that just seemed a lot easier than finding cables for that and just, like, going to buy Tony Hawk's Underground 2. Because I already owned it on PS2, but I think I owned it twice on PS2, if I remember correctly. But that's besides the point. When I was playing that game earlier, it dawned on me that we don't really have a lot of gaming experiences like that anymore. Like, you don't have to pay for anything besides like the base game and the old days. Like, it really is amazing how much it's changed over the past like 5 or so years. Probably a little bit more than that. I don't know when the first piece of DLC came out. I'm sure it's kind of probably always existed in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how, because I don't know every video game that's ever existed, but I'm assuming that it probably has existed for quite some time now in the gaming industry. I don't know the first game that did it, but I'm sure somebody will know in the comments down below this video, or maybe if you just look it up, I'm sure that'll do it too. I honestly didn't think about that, because I'm kind of freeballing this commentary, if you didn't know. Because it's kind of like, that's what I like to do on the channel. I like to talk instead of going off a script. Some videos, yeah, I'd like to script because they need to be more professional or something like that. But for videos like this, theorizing and just talking about stuff that I'm passionate about, I find, like, yeah, sometimes I do go off base and sometimes I do get stumbly and, like, mutter or whatever. But for the most part, I enjoy these videos more because I'm able to not go off a script, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not actually typing this up on my computer right now. I'm actually just saying it based on what's popping into my head, and I think that's the best way for some commentary channels to work. Not all people can do that. Sometimes I fail at it too. I definitely have a lot of scrapped recordings where I completely like lose the base of where I am, and a lot of times, yeah, I do have to have like a guide telling me like, oh yeah, you're or like a notepad or something, just saying like the key points of my video, but back onto topic, or back on base to the actual topic of this video. Just to kind of sum things up, I do think that indie publishers and developers are going to become more of the mainstream things, because if we remember a little game called Minecraft from many years ago now, not many, but many in terms of gaming years, like 5 or 6 years ago, I think the game launched. I'm not exactly sure. I think it launched in 2011, if I want to say. I want to say that, because I think I picked up in 2013 or 2012. I've owned Minecraft for a long time, but I haven't played it in quite a while. Probably about a year or so. No, probably about a year. And then before, like, since I've played it actually, like, survival, like, seriously, it's probably been about 2.5 years or so. But Minecraft did very well commercially. Like they got movies. They're coming out the movie. They have animations. They have toys. They have books. They have tons of stuff in terms of Minecraft. They have a freaking convention for the thing. I mean, it's a very popular thing, and for good reason too. When they first came out with Minecraft, and even to this day, I believe that they have a very rock solid and new idea to the industry that added the new genre of survival. And then I think kind of horror used to be a thing, and then I think survival horror kind of grew out of that in some regards. Like I said, that's just kind of my theory on it. But when I say that indie developers are going to take over eventually, it's because of two little things, and I said them earlier, and it's because, one, it's the price. Indie games you can't beat, because a lot of people can't afford to spend $60 every few weeks on a new game or whatever, if that's how serious you are into gaming. Some people can't afford to pay for that as it is, or even if they can't afford it, some people just simply don't want to pay that. Because let's be honest, $60 is pushing the bill for some games that are coming out in today's day and age. In today's day and age in gaming. Because some games, let's be frank, aren't worth $60. Like, I liked the heck out of watching Outlast 2. I thought a lot of it was repetitive, in my opinion. It didn't have the best scares. It was disturbing. Probably one of the most disturbing games I've watched, but in terms of jump scares themselves, I think we still have to like give our nod our hats to, or bow our heads to Silent Hills, the PT teaser trailer. I'm still salty about that, Konami, and in my opinion, you don't even deserve to be developers at this point because sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but back onto the main part of the video. I do think that price is definitely a big part of it, because most indie games, they're not going to be like, they're probably going to be around $10-15. Some obviously more, because either they A, have more content, or B, they're just somewhat better in some regards. But the thing I like about indie games is that they actually have their own set of teams to go off and say, like, hey, we want to develop this, we want to develop that, here's an idea for this, maybe we can elaborate on this, or something to that regard, where they can kind of just set their own balance for it. Whereas with AAA companies, they kind of have like checklists and be like, okay, in Call of Duty, we have to have this Call of Duty IP, and we have to have this, the writers get ready for this. You got to take notes. Best friend of protagonist must die dramatically and sacrifice self in war for shock value, or something like that in campaign, or we have to have this many prestige modes, or we have to have gold weapons. Like, you know what I mean? Like, once you start picking apart the little tropes and stuff that exist in games that are, I don't want to say remade every year, but a lot of games are kind of remade from the ground up and just put different skins on, different story, and like, there's not really any game out there right now that's really safe from that trope, because it works. And that's the sucky thing about it, because, yeah, in my opinion, I like the balance of having regurgitated stuff, and it's weird to say regurgitated, because perhaps it's not the best word. I like having the same IPs, as long as they're done creatively in a different way, but I also love getting new games that are completely different from anything I've ever played before. For example, I don't know if they're technically an indie developer, but there was a game called Spec Ops: The Line from Jaeger Studios, I believe, that created the game. And it was, spoiler alert, not really spoiler alert, okay. How do I go about this? Do I want to spoil the game for people or not? Spec Ops: The Line has, I've actually thought about making a video on the lore behind this game, and just like an analysis, and I probably will do that eventually. But if you haven't played Spec Ops: The Line by Jaeger Studios, it's on Steam, Xbox Live, and I believe PS3. I don't know about new gen consoles, next gen consoles, but I know for a fact it's on PC because I own it. I've had some issues with getting it to launch. I was going to do a Let's Play of it a few weeks ago on Twitch or YouTube, but I was having issues with the game launching, and I think that's just weird settings in my end, because it never happened before, but now it's happening all of a sudden, so I don't know what to make of it. But that game was new, but also old. It over-exaggerated the stereotypes of first-person shooters and third-person shooters and just basically military and war violence and gaming. And then it elaborated into a completely new psychological drama thriller that was honestly one of the best and biggest twists I've ever seen in gaming, and that's including some of the bigger ones out there. It's completely underrated, and I really wish that more people would play it. It's one of those games that I don't think needs a sequel, which is good in itself, because it stands on its own. Like, for a lot of Call of Duty games, it can be like, yeah, there's some great moments through all of the games, but there's not really a big story that sets apart that's so good about than any other Call of Duty game. It's just kind of got like meh campaigns all around, but then you got some really cool sacrificial moments or just like really cool moments of action. And the same thing goes with like Battlefield and stuff like that and all those games. But with Spec Ops: The Line, I can clearly remember specific acts of dialogue and twists and turns and just dramatics and just stuff like that because it's stuck in my mind. The developers did a really good job on that because they were being creatively expressive about it. They didn't like go with the trope of just like, oh, you're gonna walk into Dubai and you're just gonna kill everybody and then you're gonna go home because you're a military hero. It completely changed and flipped it on its head to the point of where you're just kind of like, what just happened? And I think that's where gaming hopefully is going. Because, yeah, I do love my AAA games, and as much as I hate spending $60 on a new game, I honestly try to avoid that. I usually either wait for a sale or just avoid the game in total and just in general, because I'm a college student. I don't have, like, $60 all the time just to be like, yeah, let me go spend it on Black Ops 3 or whatever. It's honestly not that easy because, you know, people just can't afford that all the time, which sucks to say, but it's true. Like, so a lot of people, even watching the video, some may be able to afford like spending $60 like right off the bat, some may not. It's the gap in gaming, or that's a really big gap in gamers in the gaming industry that some developers fail to kind of see, because there are a lot of people out there that would probably love to buy the new Outlast game, or they would love to buy Far Cry 5 when it comes out, or whatever the case may be, but they just can't afford it, which honestly is kind of, I'm not like poor by any stretch of the imagination or lower class, but there are people out there that can't afford those things, and that's where I think indie games are going to come into effect, because you can make, I think with indie games, it's almost like unlimited potential, whereas with AAA games and developers, they have a formula. Yeah, technically there is unlimited potential, but it's very limited for most of the time because they're always expected to do a certain thing or just like please a certain amount of people. For example, if you played the next Call of Duty game or something like that and it turned into just a horror game or something like that, or it turned into this big psychological thing, yeah, a lot of people would love that. But then you'd probably alienate a bunch of people and think that we're just looking for a straight up multiplayer experience. I mean, in some Call of Duty is probably a bad example because they don't usually have the most stellar campaigns in the world. But just pick a very beloved story in a game, and then flip that story on its head for a sequel, and just like in a different light. Some people will love that, but some other people will hate it because it's just difference in opinion, and I think indie games can definitely express and just elaborate on just different forms of, I don't know, creative expression, because they have more room for error in a way. But I do realize that some do not have room for error, because a lot of indie developers when they start out don't have a lot of money, and they obviously need money to develop their games, so it always helps them when they, like, YouTubers share the stuff, or they pay for stuff, they donate to Patreons, or whatever it may be that they're funding it through. But yeah, I'm going to end this video off here. It's been long enough. I feel like I've been mostly mumbling on half this time, reiterating my points over and over. But to recap and just finish the video off, I think the indie games will eventually take over because of, one, the cheap prices of them and the affordability of it, because let's be honest, some AAA games are not worth $60, and on top of that, it's $60, and you're just like kind of left wondering, like, do I actually spend $60 on this, or do I just go spend $30 on like 2 or 3 indie games that have like some arguably better content and more bang for the buck per se, or to say, and I don't know. Yeah, and then the other one, what was the other point? I was completely zoned out. The first one was the affordability, and the second one was just creative expression, because, like I said, indie developers aren't really necessarily, a lot of them starting out don't have a specific set of rules that they have to follow. I mean, clearly there are some, and I think that honestly DLC is kind of pushing the limit with microtransactions. Like I said, I love Black Ops 3, I love Zombie Chronicles, but you can completely cheat that game by paying. Like, not cheat in a way of like you're 100% better than everybody, but to a certain degree, kinda. Because you can get weapons, and you can get melee weapons. In fact, scratch that. Yeah, it kind of is pay to win. It's pay to be better in some regards, depending on what weapons you're good with. Some are trash weapons that you can get, some are really good. Most of them are pretty good, and I would love to have them, but you can't just pay for them because it would pay to win. So they have like a gambling system, which is really cheap and really stupid, and honestly, very unhealthy for anybody involved, because people, especially kids, are going to be on, just be like, oh, $2 isn't that much for a supply crate. Same thing with CSGO. They can just spend what they feel like is infinite amounts, or not much money, but then it becomes like starts piling up into a lot of like a gambling addiction almost, which is disgusting to see, especially since most of the Call of Duty, and not most, I should say, a big portion of the Call of Duty community is probably children, or like around that age group of where it's just like, yeah, you should probably be a little bit more I don't know, just a little bit more less, a little less gamblish, because, you know, people are actually impacted by this, and they are actually, you can make an impression on those people. But yeah, sorry, like I said, off on another tangent. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day, keep calm, and trust your instincts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.